So hello again. Podcasting is, of course, the next topic. And I always got the question, okay, how can you actually set up WordPress with podcasting and what should you expect and what should you do? First of all, you install the plugin. It's called PowerPress from Blobbery or whatever. I don't know how you say it right. I mean, this name itself is a challenge. But anyways, I think you can read it. You get the point. Just I don't want to show you how to install a plugin because you should already know that, right? So I don't want to waste the time here. But what I want to show you is in a very quick time how you can actually set up the podcast and the feed on WordPress, right? And also about the hosting issues, and that hosting costs money. And I'm going to talk about it because there is a cool way how you can avoid paying any additional money for hosting, right? So let's dive into that. So as you can see, PowerPress here on the left is basically the plugin where what you use in order to set up your podcast. Those settings here, the general settings, it speaks for itself because there's a program title. So you basically give it a name. In this particular case, I'm using a different page here. And you also fill out your subtitle, and you also fill out your summary. So that's always standard. And of course, in the description, in the summary, you put in some keywords, so you especially target your audience. You get straight to the point and have really cool copywriting, I guess, and so on. The next thing is you choose a category that also speaks for itself. I mean, there aren't as many categories, so you put it into something that really fits, and you choose a second category and even a third one. You choose also if it's explicit or not. In my case, I chose it because sometimes some words are like just boom, dropping out of my mouth. And here we go. So I'm explicit. And of course, put in your email, and that you have episodic things going on, etc. So here comes the next thing. That's the artwork. And that particular artwork should be a maximum square pixel image in JPEG format and 3000 by 3000 pixel. And you basically upload it to your server. You see this one here I have been using for a different web page, right? And that's all what you do. So you make sure you upload it and boom, down. And the next thing, all those settings I actually keep as it is, but there is one important thing, and that can drive you crazy at the beginning. You have to check custom podcast channels, right? And then once you did this, click Save Changes. And then I'm going to show you why this is important. Now on the left, you see here under the settings, and you might not have seen this before, it pops up. It's called Podcast Channels. Now you click it. And you could create additional channels here for the podcast. But in my particular case, I just don't even want to do this. But what is cool about this, once you click it, you can click now on Edit. And if you edit that particular channel, which I just started here, and this is German speaking, so sorry for that. But then you can go now into all the details. First of all, you see the feed. If you click on the feed, basically, that's what any podcast needs in order to show up. It doesn't matter if it's Apple, it doesn't matter if it's Google, and it doesn't matter if you're going to use it on any other platforms like Stitcher, SoundCloud, and whatever the names are, right? But you have to make sure that you create a feed. And the reason why we are using PowerPress is mainly for that particular reason, because it creates a feed for me, and I don't have to write it, manually. And that's, so to speak, the main reason why I'm using PowerPress, because of the feed. Can you believe that? Yes or no? Well, you better do. But anyways, because writing a feed would be really, really crazy, because look at all this kind of stuff. And that feed is nothing else than data that feeds the podcast, the distribution channel. So it doesn't matter if it's iTunes from Apple, Google has its own, if it's Stitcher or whatever, SoundCloud and whatever their names are, but they're reading the data from that particular feed, and that's why you need this plugin, because it creates the feed for you, right? Also, keep in mind when you look at the URL, I hope that you don't have any URL that is already like your domain name and slash feed, because otherwise you will run into problems, because if you override it or it's existing already, that wouldn't be good, but usually there isn't. I mean, who creates a feed without having a podcast, right? So you should be fine. Then you can see here, you could change, of course, now the title again from your podcast. You can also change here, of course, the categories and so on, but there is nothing anymore to do, because hopefully you filled everything out how you want to your podcast appear. So then there is another thing in the website, and this is the so-called subscribe page. And I created one because you can see there are so-called shortcodes, and when you implement those shortcodes, right, then you give your audience the possibility to subscribe to your podcast. And PowerPress actually also gives you here a little tutorial or a help file, and basically tells you, okay, what should you do if you create like this, how do you say, like subscribe page or whatever you want to name it. And I also did one, of course, and it's super simple. I don't know if I can find this here right now. Probably not. I have to search for, because I didn't prepare for this. Maybe I call it something with podcast, as far as I know. Yeah, here we go. Boom. So I can show it to you, and there is a picture on it, and look what it does. So this shortcode, as you can see here, PowerPress subscribe, right? That's a so-called shortcode or a snippet, right? And if I would now click on this page, that's all what I did. I created the page, and I created it also with Thrive. If you don't know what that is, you should check out my other video tutorials and learn it for building landing pages. But anyways, there it is. There's the custom HTML, and there you can see that I just put in the snippet. And all it does is, if you close it, you can see that the snippet, builds for you the links that no matter from where they are coming, they can subscribe on Android, by email, on the Google Podcast, and so on, right? Anyways, so that's it. There is nothing really more to say. This is what you fill out the Apple subscription URL later if your podcast will get approved. But don't think about that your podcast will get approved immediately, because it might take a time, and you might also get rejected. That also happened to me. Hello? Because whenever you do something, it will not be perfect, and you will get rejected for several reasons. I don't even know why I got rejected, but I'm working on it with iTunes and Apple, and we are going back and forth, and they try to help me out here as well. But as you can see, that's the good news, because also troubleshooting, what are you doing then if it's getting rejected? I'll get back later to that. Anyways, then you see here audio player. That's the standard audio player, and that shows you how your podcast will appear, so to speak, on your homepage. Now, what are you doing with your website? First of all, there is something I want to warn you. Big warning. Most of the time, people choose the slug, the URL. So you have a domain, and then you choose the slug as a category. It's called podcast, right? And big warning here, because PowerPress also gives a big warning out when you see, I sound like Arnold. Yeah, let's eat a schnitzel now. So even Blueberry PowerPress or whatever, I call them now Blueberry, right? They even had, I looked it up, a so-called warning that you shouldn't use a category called podcast, because, now look at this, if I type in now the podcast, it's funny, the feed, yesterday it was podcast, and I don't know why it's not working today. Yeah, here we go, I misspelled it. So the feed is also at the main root domain /podcast/. So if you would create now, or try to create a category or a slug, right, the URL podcast, it doesn't matter if it's a page, if it's a blog post, or if it's a category, you will run into this issue that this is already gone. So don't override it. Don't do that, because if you do so, you might also ruin the feed. Now, it was bothering me, I have to say, because I had in mind, I wanted to create a category which is called just podcast, right? And then I realized, wait, don't touch this, because I will run into so many other issues. It's too complicated then. Going into WordPress, changing a code and whatever, that your feed will work out again. No, too much work. So what did I do? I said, okay, I just call it podcasts with an S, right? So this is plural and not singular, even if my English sucks, but at least I know that, right? So that basically means I created this category, podcasts, and then I show you how you actually create a page or a blog post with one of those blog posts or like podcasts, right? And as you can see, I just usually create, and I'll show you this in the dashboard, let's go here, a so-called post. And this is German. I'm sorry, I should have changed it, that you can read it in English as well. I didn't, but if you are familiar with WordPress, this is called blog posts here, okay? So then let's go here, and you see this is a typical blog post. $250,000 in cash, okay? I had to invest for moving to the US. And then see, this is what you get. Because like my internet provider sucks so much, I called them today. It's Xfinity, and they really suck. And they always kill my internet. You see what I mean? But anyways, if my internet is coming back, then you should see that it's a regular blog post. And hopefully they hear me and I get my internet back immediately, because it drives me crazy, right? So how can you work here professionally if the internet constantly dies? Okay, I don't want to do this to you guys, and put it on pause and I'll be back in a second. Yes, guess what? Internet is back. So as you can see here, this is a regular blog post, right? And all I do is I just make sure that my slug is actually clean here, so the URL, and then I type in my headline, and that's about it. But here is now this wonderful thing about the PowerPress plugin, right? Because you see here, first of all, if you don't see it, you can always check here on the top in WordPress, and then you see all the things you can turn on or turn off, right? And there is also podcast episodes or whatever here. So if you check this, you will get the episodes right here. Then you check this, and then you see that there should be your MP3 file. So basically, all you do is you create a blog post, okay? Once you have this blog post created, I'll show you how it looks like. It's a regular blog post when using WordPress, right? That's all what you do. Here we go. But then once you have the plugin installed, do you see this here? This is now the audio button, so to speak, where you can play the podcast. Boom, here we go, right? But I stop it. And that's it. But what is the good thing about it? So you don't need to program anything. You don't need to do anything. All you have to do is, once you created your MP3 file, you upload it to the host wherever you are hosting your MP3 files. And this is also like a big thing, because I made research. Everybody is trying to sell you a hosting package and says like, hey, you know what? You cannot host an MP3 file, for instance, on Mediafire or some free hosting things. And that's true. I tried it, and you can't verify it. It just doesn't work. So you need somewhere a hosting package that allows you to upload MP3 files, and you have bandwidth, and you also have enough disk space, right? But here's the thing: even if you pay a paid podcast hosting company for that, right? It's just a hosting company like any regular hosting company for like a website hosting, right? And of course, now I can say website hostings are also different. That is true, because you get what you pay for. So that means if you have something for free and it's kind of like you don't have any bandwidth and you can only upload like 500 megabytes, then of course it's becoming sooner or later an issue, because you're running out of disk space, or the hosting company will charge you more money if the bandwidth is reached or you go with, or they shut you down, whatever, right? But then I was looking into all to these options, and I realized, hopefully you have seen all my other tutorials before, I'm hosting at Namecheap, and I have so much disk space in the business thing. And I looked also at my so-called bandwidth that I don't even use 1% of the bandwidth they give me, right? So I looked it up, and then I said, you know what? Why should I pay additional money for any other hosting company if my web page is still so small? I don't even have an audience. I don't have even, a massive amount of traffic. I mean, I hope I would get one day with my target audience. That's why we do it. But at the beginning, you're so small. You're like, and you want to save money wherever you can save money. And why should I pay like then $10 here, $15 there? And it's always like crazy because people always say like, hey, it's just $20 here and $20 there and whatever. And at the end, after having 10 different packages, you pay like $200 or $300 a month. I mean, it's easy to spend a ton of money on all those services without even noticing, right? Anyway, so my recommendation for this is I tried Google Drive, I tried Mediafire and some other ones. I tried even to upload the MP3 to my iCloud or whatever, but of course that doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not made for that, also because you need to give permissions, and then you don't have the bandwidth and so on. So what did I do? As you know, I showed you before that you can choose an FTP, and what I did is I basically uploaded every MP3 file directly into my WordPress upload content folder. That's where I put it, right? I could even have been putting it into a root folder, for audio files. It really does not matter. But what matters is that hopefully you have a web hosting company where your disk space is a little bit bigger and also where you have enough bandwidth. That's about it. If you have this, you are fine, right? So, and if you click verify the URL, you see it here. It's very important that you always check it. You click verify the URL in the plugin, and then only if the media was verified successfully, then you are done. Then it basically says, okay, this audio file was accepted and it was okay, right? But also keep one thing in mind. I was running tests and it drove me crazy and never anybody mentioned that. And then once you created a ton of audio files, naming them, right? I had, for instance, dollar signs in it. I had like not a clean naming, I don't want to say, is it convention or whatever? But as you can see now here, I don't have any crazy letters or signs in it. It's all with the dash, and it's all clean. And this is episode 001 dash, and then comes, just the alpha numerical things in it, period, right? And you don't want to put any other stuff in it because it will just harm you, or it might have some conflicts. It will bring some conflicts in the feed when iTunes or whatever is looking for the MP3 file, but they cannot find it, right? So all I'm saying is, if you name it and upload it, keep the naming super, super clean. So this is your MP3 file. That's about it. That's the post. What do you have to do here inside of WordPress? That's about it. And again, if you look at the page, that's how it looks like. I mean, I just assign a picture to it. That's all. I don't write any text. Of course, you could handle it like a real blog post with lots of SEO content in it, but in this particular case, this is not what I'm going after, because I'm just really going after a feed that I need for my podcast, right? So that's all what I do. And then, of course, as you can see here, I created a category. Now, you see this, podcasts, with an S at the end, that I don't have any conflicts with the podcast feed, right? And if you check now the category, podcasts, right? Then you can see I have been creating 3 podcasts here. Then you see, here we go. If I want to know where all my podcasts are, that's my category, podcasts, and within my podcasts category, I can see number 1, number 2, number 3, period. That's about it. So This is all what you should consider from the beginning using PowerPress and all the other stuff. That's about it. And of course, I just want to show you also what you can do for free, right? And what's working and what's not working. And let me go back here because I think either my internet connection already died again. But I want to then jump into the next thing, because before you upload the MP3 files, you should also consider the tags, the meta tags or tagging. That's super important. And as you already, it's anyways, again, my internet connection is so bad today. Woo! How can you work like that, right? But anyways, so I'll be back in the next video showing you what else you have to do. But in terms of the PowerPress settings, that's all what you have to do. That's all what you can do for now. And you see also the steps to fill out the settings on this page, create a blog post with an episode. And the third part would be submit your podcast to iTunes or other podcast directories. But those are the 3 steps. But before you do so, I learned also what I have to do with my MP3 files, how I could tag them, how I could create those meta tags, because it also drove me nuts to find that at the beginning. It took me a while and creating the graphics for it. So stay with me, but you need to see this, so it will it will save you a ton of time and frustration. So after this podcast video, you need to watch and continue with how to actually, once you recorded an MP3 file, how you do the meta tags and how can you double and triple check them in iTunes before you even upload any of those files to your hosting server. So that's about it. Again, this was Papas Marketing, Bernard, and I hope I could help you a little bit, and talk to you later. See you. Take care. Bye.